and welcome to the Wibbly Wobbly Timey Wimey podcast.
I'm Lucia Kelly, expert at applied analysis and big ball of emotion.
And I'm Talia Franks, media critic, fanfic enthusiast, and Christopher Eccleston stan. Oh God,
And we're
I'm gonna miss him so much.
I'm gonna miss him so much too. We're still in the intro, Talia. How dare you interrupt the sacredness of the intro?
I'm a Christopher Eccleston stan. Fuck the intro.
And we're here today to talk about series 1 of Doctor Who as a whole. It's the wrap-up.
It's the wrap-up. Remember that time isn't a straight line. It can twist into any shape. And as such, this is a fully spoiled podcast. We might bring things in from later in the show, the comics, the books, audio dramas, or even fan theories and articles.
With that out of the way, it's the end of the season. So let's get in the TARDIS. Oh my gosh.
I really am going to miss 9 so much.
I'm going to miss that. I didn't know how much it would affect me. This is the first time, this watch through is the first time that I've truly, really appreciated 9 as the Doctor. It's honestly such a tragedy that because everyone's like, no, David Tennant is my Doctor, David Tennant's the real Doctor, that Eccleston gets kind of skipped over in more ways than like literally skipping him over, but people don't tend to count him or are dismissive towards him when really he's the first. He was the one who brought it back. He laid the foundation. He is essential to the success of why we're now in the double digits of seasons, right? Like he laid the groundwork. It was him and Billy Piper, and the lack of respect.
Yeah, I think it's because, and I'm fully open about the fact that I didn't become a fan of Doctor Who until David Tennant's run was over. Like I've said, I started watching Doctor Who when it was on Netflix already, right after Matt Smith wrapped his first season. So I wasn't watching it live when the reboot first started, but from what I've learned, that Eccleston's departure from the series was something that became known almost as soon as Doctor Who started airing. I think it was only a couple episodes into his season when it was announced that he wasn't going to be returning as the Doctor and that David Tennant was going to be replacing him. So I think that's a lot of why David Tennant has overshadowed so much of the Ninth Doctor. You know, we never got to see the Ninth Doctor do so many things. And honestly, that's actually why I appreciate The Unquiet Dead, because we sort of did get to see Christopher Eccleston do his Christmas episode.
Honestly, yeah. He wouldn't have done it otherwise.
We were saying that, oh, is this a Christmas episode? Well, we did get to see him do his Christmas special.
Yeah.
But, you know, it really sucks. But I do understand, because he left so soon after he started, why David Tennant became everybody's Doctor and became the face of New Who.
There's definitely also more of a kind of cult following around David Tennant than there is Christopher Eccleston. I think that's a big part of it.
Yeah, there's such a cult following around David Tennant.
I think that's really indicative of a lot of fandom culture in terms of how, particularly when it's primarily run and perpetuated by people who spend a lot of time on the internet and maybe don't spend a lot of time socializing outside of that, it can get really echo chambery and really sort of heightened. Like everything's like, when we take a step back, it's a television show. They're actors, it's a job, it's something that we enjoy. Yes, story is incredibly important. Yes, entertainment is incredibly important. Yes, of course, fiction and reality have an incredibly strong bond and is one of the important tenets of humanity and civilization. Like the way we tell story is incredibly important. At the same time, let's keep it all in perspective.
Yeah.
And I think that also definitely has had an impact. The fact that Christopher Eccleston, despite the fact that he deserves it, does not have that same intensely loyal fan base.
Mm-hmm. We were talking before we started the recording how we were listening to the audio dramas, and they're so, so good. And I know that the audio dramas they're a little bit hard to follow without visual cues, but just his voice and hearing him in the role of the Doctor again was so amazing for me.
Yeah, it was surprisingly emotional. I was like, oh, wait, there's more Nine. I'm so excited.
I've read comics with Nine, I've read books with Nine, but like hearing his voice and hearing him reprise the role really got me emotional again, and I really appreciated it. And it made me think about, in relation to our podcast actually, because I was reading an interview with him in Doctor Who magazine, and he was talking in the interview about the strength of the writing in the show and about how an actor was really nothing without the writing. And it was making me think about how we've been really hard on the writing this season. And I was thinking, like, why have we been so hard on the writing this season? Because I was looking at our past grading and I was like, we've been really hard on the writing. And it made me think, when we talk about writing, a lot of the times we're not precisely judging the flow of the story. We're not always judging the strength of the dialogue. We're not even always judging whether or not things make narrative sense. For me, it's more about the content of the script, because I feel like something can be really well written, but for me, when I've been judging the writing, I've not been judging it on whether or not the syntax of the story works or whatever. Basically, I think that something can look really good on paper and can be acted out well, but is still really bad.
Yeah, yeah.
For example, you can have actors saying things and acting them out well and having them make narrative sense, but have them be shitty things to say and do that don't feel authentic to the character or don't feel like they make sense outside of the bubble in which they are written.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of our harshness on the writing, I think definitely there's a part of it where it's like we're judging it from 20 years on. But there's also been this kind of, this watch through is definitely the first time. Like, I always knew the Doctor was morally grey. I understood that kind of fundamentally, that he's never been this pure, like, that's the companion's role. The companion's role is to be the good person. The Doctor's role is to be morally grey. But this is the first time that I'm like, oh, wait, the Doctor is morally grey, and the narrative doesn't hold him accountable for that. And that's what really bothered me, is that it's fine. It's great to have a morally grey protagonist as long as that's kept in perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't mean spoon feeding the audience and telling them everything, but it does mean keeping your character accountable. Have Rose call him out more often. Have other people call him out more often. Have things that he's done affect him, like have him second guess himself or talk about the sort of moral issues that he's been having. And we have had some of that, but I don't know, it hasn't felt nearly equal to the actions.
Yeah, I think probably the issue with the writing as I see it isn't a fault of the writers per se as individuals. It's more that the writing sometimes lacks consistency across episodes because the episodes are written by different writers, sometimes produced by different directors. It feels sometimes like it's not as cohesive as it could be. Some episodes feel very different from other episodes, which can be a real strength. But when it comes to holding the Doctor accountable, it's something that doesn't work out as well.
And also, this is year one for the writing team. This is the first time they've all been together. It's the first season. And it's also very common for the first season of any TV show to be much more kind of, especially in this format, kind of monster of the week. You tend to not get overarching season arcs or character development happening over multiple episodes with multiple different writers until the writing team is a bit more used to each other and knows how to work together better. And you have a bigger audience so that you can sort of justify having these multi-episodes arcs where you can be like, well, of course they understand this because they've watched the previous episode.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And I think it's also really unfair for 9 to only have this one season because we only have one season to judge him on.
Exactly, yeah.
It puts a lot of pressure on 9 to only have one, like we have one season to set up all of this, all of everything. And for better or for worse, that's all we have of him.
And also, I'm just going to double check this before I say it with authority.
One thing I am going to say with authority is that the first mention of Torchwood is not in the Christmas Invasion. It's in Bad Wolf.
Is it?
Yes.
Hang on.
The android says, Broff, the Great Cobalt Pyramid is built on the remains of which famous old Earth institute? Broff says, or touchdown, and the android says, no, Torchwood.
Which is just, I want to know where, like, at what point in the writing room were things like, this is the reality, this is like, this is what this is what this is. Like, at what point is it like, this is what Torchwood is? At what point is it, this is what Torchwood is originally, this is what Jack will make it? At what point is it, do you know who the face of Bo is? It's Jack. Like, at what point do people decide these things? And at what point do you start threading them in? Like, is it, I'm going to sort everything out before I even think about putting it in an episode? Or is it, I'm just going to sprinkle something in here and then along the line, I'll figure out what it means. I want to know the intricacies of the writing room.
I want to know if he really loves me.
So, in terms of writing, the character work was really strong. I don't think there was an episode where I was like, that feels out of character. It all felt like building layers, which was really good. So you have Rose as this compassionate, very sort of lawful good character. And then as you get to know her more, it turns out, oh, wait, it actually goes further than that. She's actually got a bit of a complex. She's a bit of a knight in shining armor. She doesn't examine her privilege. And all of this stuff makes her a more complicated character. I don't think that's very examined by the narrative, but I think those layers are there and you can read them.
Yeah, but I just can't reconcile that version of Rose with how she treats Mickey.
Yeah.
I can't do it. And honestly, you say character work, but Mickey is so one-dimensional.
Yeah. That is one of the sore points and weak points of this season, is the unexamined racist treatment of Mickey. It's just not, like, if we want to talk about products of the time, the fact that all of the treatment of Mickey is so unexamined is really telling.
Mm-hmm. That's the teensiest bit of it in Boomtown when he acknowledges that she treats him like shit, but then he still goes on to stan her in.
And spoiler, that doesn't stop in season 2. It just keeps going.
But We're talking about Eccleston right now.
Yeah.
Eccleston.
Eccleston. Yeah. So New Who definitely set out to be darker than the original. We've talked a bit before about how Classic Who, it absolutely had deeper themes running through it and, was the family show in the sense of everyone could watch it and be entertained, right?
I mean, wasn't it also kind of dark? I feel like Old Who was, I don't know. I didn't really watch a lot of Old Who, but I've seen some pretty dark episodes. I don't know. Maybe kids' television is just dark.
Mm. I mean, honestly, yeah. But I think it was the gritty remake before gritty remakes became a thing. Like, New Who has a very definitive, different flavor to Old Who. And it's a lot more explicit about the fact that it's dealing with darker subjects. And Eccleston really met that, really just stood up to the plate and met that in a way that is so admirable. This whole setting up of the Doctor as someone with deep, unresolved trauma is down to Eccleston's performance. I'm thinking particularly of Dalek. I'm thinking particularly of the few shining moments in the end of the world. I'm thinking about the finale. All of these episodes show the real depth of his performance. It's not just larking about in a blue box. There are incredible emotional beats.
Definitely. Definitely.
Which I think would bring us around to themes, which I was so surprised, I guess, by the strength of the themes in this first season. I kind of remember season one being, yeah, a lark, sort of jumping about, just getting used to the idea, having fun. And the fact that these episodes have such strong resonance in terms of talking about things like trauma, like personhood, like family, like what constitutes family and what does it mean. And all of these things were so much stronger than I remembered them being.
Yeah. I mean, when I rewatch Doctor Who, I mostly tend to rewatch the really fun episodes, the uplifting episodes, the romps or whatever. So rewatching this season made me realize how much Doctor Who makes me cry, because I had to watch a whole bunch of emotional shit and I was like, oh yeah, Doctor Who makes me cry a lot.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Wait, how could it possibly be one of my favorite shows if it didn't have deep emotional if it didn't make you cry?
You and your big ball of emotion self. Yeah, but Doctor Who just whacked me in the feels with this season. And yeah, the thing that I wish more than anything is that we could see a season with Eccleston without Rose. No, okay, like I'm just so fucking sick of Rose. I'm so sick of her. Just really sick of her. I had to go watch some episodes with other companions because I was getting Rose overload. She's so annoying. She's so annoying.
I don't find her as annoying. I know Rose is a divisive companion. People either tend to really like her or really hate her.
I don't hate her. I just think she's really immature and full of herself, and she makes goo goo eyes at the doctor all the time, and it's annoying.
Yeah.
Where Martha is really competent, sure in herself, and she makes goo eyes at the doctor, but accepts that it's not going to happen, so moves on.
Hmm. And this is where we get into this idea of the doctor as a viable romantic partner, which, no, no. And the fact that that is also unexamined. It's that is also unexamined, which is the real issue for me. And that it's even called out, but then nothing is done. The fact that Jackie slaps the doctor because this is wrong. The fact that literally everyone around them is like, wait, you're dating this older man? And they don't even know the full context of it. And they're like, this is wrong. And then Rose on the roof is like, you're 900 years old. That's a hell of an age gap. Lol, 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 lol. And then keeps on going.
You know, I would say Cassandra is actually in his age range.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
She says he's a little bit foxy, like they could work.
We got Rose instead, which, and I think I said this on our very first episode, but Rose's character is deeply compromised by her relationship with the doctor. And I'm not talking morally, I'm talking about on a fundamental level, the character of Rose, the audience's view of her, how she works within the narrative, is compromised because of this all-consuming, all she can think about, overwhelming relationship and pedestal that she's put the doctor on.
Yeah, and I think the main issue with it is that Billy Piper and David Tennant have too much chemistry. I was watching those episodes and I had to keep reminding myself, Tennant and Rose have a toxic relationship. This is bad. Their dynamic is bad. But I was watching it and I was like, but they're so cute.
Yeah. We've also got to keep reminding ourselves that Rose is 19, right? Because Billy doesn't look 19.
I think she's probably 20 at this point. She's been traveling with the doctor for a while. But what is time?
What is time? And also her writing as a 19-year-old is really inconsistent as well. Like sometimes she acts like a 24-year-old, sometimes she acts like a 16-year-old. It's never really on the money. There's glimpses of it, but it's never consistent.
It is never consistent. And I would want to say, actually, because we were talking about the fact that neither of us are British, and we were talking about how we didn't know much about the British school system. So I looked into it, and actually, people can just leave school when they're 16. They can just stop, and then like the last 2 years of school optional. So Rose leaving school when she was 15 is actually only leaving school a year early, but is still, I don't know. I still get slightly mystified by the way the UK school system works.
So I think we've talked. Have we talked out all our problems with Rose, or are there more?
I could make an entire episode just about my problems with Rose, but as I said, I'm sick about talking about her.
All right. What would you say, having seen the whole season, having analyzed it to the depth that we have, what are some really standout moments for you?
The ones that are standing out to me most are Stitch this mate. Only a killer would know that. And I bet you were never kissed in school.
I love that. I love that combo.
Which are 3 different things that women said to the doctor or did to the doctor when he pissed them off.
Yeah, putting him in his place. Like, let's take a minute.
And also, it's not your decision, doctor, it's mine.
Yeah.
Putting the doctor in his place.
Oh, Harriet, we'll get there. Okay. For me, standout moments would probably be they're all sad. On brand. Definitely one of the moments, like when I think of 9, the moment that I think of the most is the cage scene in Dalek is just phenomenal. It's such a good introduction to the Daleks. It's such a good introduction to the Doctor's capacity and the palpable danger that you feel in that episode is insane.
Mhm.
So there's that scene. I feel like pulling something out of Father's Day just to make you cry, but what are some other standout moments? Everybody Lives is always good. And yeah, the scene between Bonfell Foch and the Doctor in Boomtown, the diner scene, is just chef's kiss. Perfect. No notes.
Everything you just picked is stuff I made into Instagram posts.
Is it? There you go. I have excellent taste.
I made an Instagram post about Only a Killer Would Know That. I made an Instagram post about Everybody Lives. I made an Instagram post about the scene from Father's Day where he's like, "Yes, I'll try and save you." That whole quote.
Oh, I thought you were going to talk about when Peter talks to Rose about the reason he's got to sacrifice himself.
No, the Instagram post I made is when the Doctor says, "Who said you're not important? I've traveled all sorts of places, done things you couldn't imagine, but you too, street corner, 2 a.m, getting a taxi home. I've never had a life like that. Yes, I'll try and save you."
Mm. And that quote, which is something I think gets missed outside of the Russell T Davies era, is grounding the episodes in everyday humanity.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to talk about this a little more. I've got a whole speech planned for Christmas Invasion where they really ground the scale and the emotional scale of that episode by making it about everyday ordinary people.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something I missed. It's something that's not really present past Russell T Davies' stewardship of the show.
I mean, you kind of get it a little bit in The Doctor, the Widow, and the Wardrobe. A little bit, not quite. And also, there's that creepy scene where she's like, "He followed me at home every day until I said I would marry him," which I hate that. I hate that so much.
That's not a reason to marry him, girl. Get out of there.
To marry him, girl, that's not a reason. I don't actually like The Doctor, the Widow, and the Wardrobe. I'm just saying that's a little bit of an example of the Doctor dropping in on someone's domestic everyday life.
Hmm.
And also The Lodger. The Lodger and Closing Time are my favorite episodes with 11.
All right. So we've talked about stand-up moments. I think it might be time to talk about the final grade. Are you ready?
The final grade. So are we going to give it a final grade, or are we going to just talk about what the grading rubric says?
I think we should give it a final grade. I mean, you've made those beautiful, beautiful report cards, which I can't wait for the listeners to see. They're so good.
I'm going to post pictures on our social media, but you can also download the PDFs from our website.
Yeah. So Talia has convinced me to be kind and So we are going to be scaling the final grade for this season.
What we're going to do is we're going to drop the lowest grade in every category. So it won't matter for acting because every episode got a 5 out of 5. But there were a few episodes who, let's say, did not perform as well as they could have in certain categories, like science.
Like science? Like the science in some was lacking?
Science in a few episodes could have been a little better, but there's always room for growth.
Apart from, and I do think we should address this, I find it hysterical that the empty child and the doctor dancers got full marks, particularly because of our marked dislike for Stephen Moffat and what he did to the canon as a whole.
Because honestly, he broke canon.
He broke canon so many times.
Doctor Who canonically doesn't have canon, but
except that it does.
Sonic Screwdriver is a magic wand, Lucia. Accept it. It can blow up a Christmas tree. It can reconstitute barbed wire. It's a magic wand.
Yeah. I've talked before about how I used to love Stephen Moffat, and I'd look forward to each of his episodes because they were always great. And I think it's a real case study for, how should I put this? Knowing your capacity. Like, Stephen Moffat is actually genuinely brilliant at writing 1 episode, 2 episode arcs. They are some of the best episodes of Doctor Who. There's simply no getting around that. He is very good at that. The problem is when you give him power. The problem is when you say, you're really good at this skill. Let's give you control of the whole season. And that's where it falls apart. Long-term arcs, never heard of her. And it's unfortunate and it's sad. And it also gave room for a lot of the sort of really just blatantly misogynistic language and characterization of a lot of the female characters in Doctor Who that flattened out absolutely everyone, made them all two-dimensional, made them all objects for male gaze. It's a bad time.
Not a good time. Seriously, like in the Robot of Sherwood, there's only 2 female characters and they do not talk to each other. Maid Marian is literally left as a present for Robin Hood at the end of the episode. Literally, that's the language that they use. The doctor says that he's leaving him a present, and the present is that Marian is left for Robin Hood to find. It's not that the doctor brings Marian, is like, hey, Marian was with me and I rescued her or whatever. No, she's just hanging out in the TARDIS alone until they leave, and then the TARDIS disappears, and then Marian is just standing there because she was hanging out in the TARDIS the whole time that they were saying goodbye to Robin Hood and his men. And so then at the end of the episode, Robin Hood goes and he's like, Marian, it's you or whatever, and then he kisses her and he's really excited. So he kisses her and they embrace or whatever, and then he lets go of her, runs away, and shoots an arrow into the air shouting, thank you, doctor. It's the most ridiculous ending to an episode I've ever seen in my life.
Oh, I cannot wait to talk about that episode.
But that's like season 8, so we'll get there.
Not him having creative control over one of the first three-dimensional, interesting female characters in English folklore. Surely not.
She literally has the personality of a dead fish in that episode.
It's fine. I'm fine. We'll get there.
I rewatched it recently, and that's actually one of the better episodes in that season.
I'm telling you, if listeners like hearing me rant about science, wait till they hear me rant about feminism. All right, the grading.
Yes, let's talk about the grading. We just know the acting's a 5 out of 5 because Christopher Eccleston was the doctor in this season. So I keep saying I want to give it a 6, but Lucia won't let me.
Not allowed. No 101% out of anything. So, production also did really well. I was consistently impressed by how pretty everything was. Not necessarily in terms of roses and flowers or whatever, pretty, but everything was so cohesive. Everything really worked. There was a real sense of place and location. The lighting, always gorgeous. The way that the cameras moved and the way that shots were framed, everything was pretty. It was really nice. Especially considering
that they spent all their money on aliens.
Yeah. The budget, there was none. And yet, this is what they produced. And actually, I think that the quality of production actually drops when they get more of a budget in later seasons, which is interesting. Like in terms of sometimes making things shiny isn't better. I actually really super enjoyed the sort of everydayness of a lot of the sets. I'm thinking of when we talk about the original Star Wars movies, one of the things that George Lucas was really insistent on was that all of the sets looked lived in. That nothing could be shiny, nothing could be new. It had to look like a lived in world, which was really abnormal for sci-fi at the time. It was not the norm to do that. Everything was shiny, everything was perfect. And so that led to a really different visual language for the Star Wars movies that made them stand out a lot more. And I felt that in this first season of Doctor Who. Everything felt lived in a way that just showed that extra care to detail in terms of the production team and the kind of effort they put into it. And I really appreciated it.
Production 5?
Production was not quite a perfect 5.
Fine, 4.5.
Yeah, 4.5. So still an A grade. What was next? Writing. We've already talked a lot about writing. Patchy at most, really good in some areas, really terrible in others. And again, I feel like a lot of that is down to just cohesiveness. But yeah, no, it's got an average of...
Its current average is 3.7. I was going to give writing a 4.
Yeah. I'm good with rounding up for this.
All right. And then science.
Oh, science.
I was going to say, I thought the science for the season as a whole wasn't that bad. I was going to be generous and give it a 3.5.
Okay. All right. I'm giving it a 3. Solidly in the middle.
So I think for rewatchability, we should give it a 5. Because I would definitely watch this season again. Even Father's Day, which we gave the rewatchability a 2 just because it's sad, I would still rewatch it sometimes when I want to cry. but only if I really, really wanted to cry.
Yeah, no, not gonna lie. Father's Day was rough. But it's so good. I love it so much.
Anyway, the point is, this season is 100% rewatchable. If you're going to rewatch a whole season of Doctor Who, this is the one I'd want to rewatch. Season 2 is going to get a 0 because I hate rewatching season 2.
I have really fond memories of season 2. I think next season is going to be really interesting because I think we're going to have a lot of differing opinions.
I hate it. I hate it so much.
I've got fond memories of this season. I've got fond memories of this season. And I cannot wait to talk to you about it. But before we do that, what is the final grade for season 1?
Let's see. That is a B+. And because we dropped the lowest grade of the season, the final grade is worth 10% of the grade. So, final grade is a B.
Lovely. Well, we've come to an end of an era. A short era, but a very significant one.
Mm-hmm.
It's time to say goodbye to Christopher Eccleston. He will be missed. He was a brilliant first Doctor for New Who, a brilliant ninth Doctor. And now we're moving on. We will be discussing next episode, the Christmas Invasion, the first official Christmas episode for Doctor Who, and the very first full episode with David Tennant as the Doctor. And I'm very excited to talk about it.
Why? It's boring as fuck.
But there are so many items of discussion.
And on that note, bye.
Bye.
This has been the Wibbly Wobbly Timey Wimey podcast.
We hope you enjoyed this adventure with us through space and time.
You can find us elsewhere on the internet on Twitter, Tumblr, and Instagram as @WibblyPod. Follow us for more Wibbly Wobbly content.
You can find out more information about us and our content on wibblywobblytimey-wimey.net and full transcripts for episodes at wibblywobblytimey-wimey.net/transcripts.
If you'd like to get in touch, you can send us an email at wibblywobblytimey-wimeypod@gmail.com.
Please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts and other platforms as it helps other people find us and our content.
Special thanks to our editor, Owen Elphick, who has been a vital member of the Wibbly Wobbly team.
That's all for now. Catch you in the time vortex.